Live. It is 10:03.
Okay. Okay, we are now live.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm going to have to look up today's date. Today's date is March 15th. This is Delegate Deborah Davis, Chair of the Charles County Delegation. I'd like to call to order our meeting for today. We have already sent out the agenda. We've sent out the status of the bills as far as we know. I've asked G.S. Proctor to be here just in case there were any questions, and I'd like to open it up to find out whether there are any questions on the status of our bills, the delegation bills. Is that Senator Jackson with a hand up? Maybe not.
No.
Okay. Oh, that's my hand. I'm sorry. All right. If there are no questions about the status of the bills, thank you. We've asked President of the Board of Commissioners, Collins, to show up and talk to us about things that he'd like to talk about, okay, and to be open for any questions. So Commissioner President Collins, I'll turn it over to you.
Go for it. Good morning, everybody. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'll be very brief. At the top of the list is Senate Bill 985, which is Economic Development County or Municipality Economic Development Authority. I proposed the establishment of a revenue authority in the county. This particular bill would actually enhance any potential revenue authority or any type of body like that in the future. Charles County, like many of the smaller counties, have not established any type of authority of this magnitude, but this is almost like a hybrid, and it provides a lot of the mechanisms that are in place within like revenue authorities like the larger counties have, such as Montgomery County, such as Prince George's, Howard County, to create new revenue streams. And as the county continues to grow, and as we continue to development in the urban redevelopment corridor, there'll be more opportunities for things like municipal parking, et cetera, that actually create additional revenue when we look at the future of the county. So this particular bill is important for us, and I just wanted to make sure it's on everyone's radar as something that the county is looking at as a priority. Another bill that
could I interrupt real quick? Can I interrupt real quick? So we've taken a look at that, and that's not moving in either house, in either house or the Senate.
It's not moving.
No, it's not moving, but it is something we should look at for next session. Do you guys know anything about it specifically? I don't expect you to, because it's kind of off the radar. Proctor, if anybody from Proctor's organization, Sherry.
There's Joe Green, G.S. Proctor Associates. We've been watching that bill with the county, your statement is correct. It's not moving. As far as additional insights, I know there was some conversation about amendments on the Senate side, kind of restructuring the bill that actually could harm existing authority, quite frankly, which obviously is not palatable. On the House side, I think the sponsor was reluctant to move it if she senses that there's going to be a lot of changes on the Senate that really change the nature and complexion of the bill. So to your point, that's just not going to go this year.
Okay, so what are the chances of us being able to adopt something like this as a local bill?
As a what?
Local bill. Next year.
I would have to look at that, to be honest with you. I don't know the complexity of what that would look like. I think it would have to be statewide, but I'd have to talk with the county and see, and then also, I guess, really check with MACo and the state and see what that would look like. It's an interesting question.
And to be clear, because we can proceed with establishing a revenue authority, but this particular bill created additional options in terms of actually incorporating some of the things that are already in place with the the proposed bill, because what it does is it, many jurisdictions have areas that are undeveloped, that are more industrial in scope. And what this does is provide really a mechanism to create like these industrial type authorities. So you can actually create, bonding authority, et cetera, within this some of the smaller jurisdictions, but within the context of authorities overall. But if it doesn't pass, I mean, that's not going to prohibit us from moving forward with establishing a local revenue authority, but it would certainly be a useful tool. So,
and I will say, I believe that we're making lots of advances in this area. As a former county commissioner and serving with you, Commissioner President, I'm seeing some stuff I want to share with you in a little bit. But go ahead with your second one.
The second one is it's actually SB 244. And this was brought to my attention by the owner of Mr. Singh. You know Mr. Singh. He said he has been talking to you up there. So, I think you are familiar with a lot of the issues. A lot of things that were in place during the pandemic gave him the ability to really kind of, bolster what he was doing with his business. And so this particular bill could, in fact, have a negative impact on his business overall. So, I know you're familiar with it because I know he's been instrumental in any discussion, in Annapolis on this.
So the bill as amended has stripped out cigar places, if I could say. How do you say that? And that's his business, correct?
Right.
Yes, as amended, it takes it out. As amended, it doesn't harm his business. Yes, so that's good news too. So I want go ahead.
Can I get one more bill? And are you from SB 1041? That was also House Bill 1217, and I know it moved up to that bill. Really, it deals with breweries, wineries, and distilleries direct delivery, and it would, at least the initial House bill would impact Copper Compass, the distillery in the county. But I spoke to him and he told me that the Senate Bill 1041 addressed many of the concerns, and the Charles County Chamber of Commerce sent a letter in February in support of SB 1041. So, and that was a cross reference bill, the cross from the House Bill 1217.
Is in my committee, in Environment and Transportation? Do you guys know? My staff will look it up.
Mm-hmm.
ECM, right? Anything dealing with
it's not in Environment and Transportation. It's an ECM.
It's an ECM. Okay, we know somebody on ECM. we'll take a look at it, Ruben, and make sure that that we're leaning toward the Senate bill rather than the House bill, if it hasn't been amended. So we'll let you know.
No, thank you. And
I want you to take a look at
And I was going to say the last thing was Police Accountability Board. I was asking if perhaps could have Miss Mitchell. She wasn't able to be here today, but I wanted her to talk about the initial report that was done by our local police accountability board and some of the potential issues that I wanted to draw to your attention, that because they made a couple of proposals for legislation for you to consider. I can very quickly. They were requesting state amendment to clarify that traffic accidents involving an officer absent willful neglect, personal injury, driving while under influence, or complaints submitted by members of the public not eligible for ACC review under Maryland Public Safety Code 3104, and there's also a request to amend to allow trial process established by the ACC and to allow the trial board case to be brought on behalf of the ACC. And also for the sheriff's office. Hey, okay, Danielle is on. So,
Well, good
Danielle,
morning. My apologies.
I was beginning kind of going. I want to, but if you could, I was kind of discussing like that initial report, but I wanted you to kind of speak in more detail about the findings and.
Sure, not a problem. Okay, good morning. So the Police Accountability Board under the statute is required to do an annual report that includes recommendations. As a part of their annual report for 2023, they'd identified a few areas that they thought may require statutory amendments. So specifically, the one issue deals with traffic accidents. We have an administrative charging committee that's hearing these cases of police misconduct. So the investigative files are being sent to the administrative charging committee, or the ACC. They're also, when those complaints of police misconduct are sent, different agencies are handling traffic accidents different. Some are treating those as complaints of police misconduct and including them when they send requests for disposition from the ACC, and other agencies are not. And so last week there was a large meeting of all the law enforcement agencies, everyone that's dealing with this new police accountability law, and everyone's experience as it was being shared was very different throughout the state. Some agencies are sending accidents, some agencies are sending accidents that meet a certain threshold, like maybe if there was personal injury, and then others are sending everything. So the sheriff's office is sending the ACC everything. So if an officer is in their cruiser, they hit a post office box that's on a residence, they're treating that as a complaint that needs to go to the ACC for a disposition to determine whether to administratively charge or not. It inundates the ACC. The ACC has started to send these back and say, we're not going to consider them. We're not going to treat this as a complaint of police misconduct. But the sheriff's office is of the opinion that the ACC should be doing that. And if they don't, then there can be no discipline. And then of course, if you go longer than a year and a day, pursuant to the law, there cannot be any discipline. So it's creating a real problem around the state. It's also an issue because when we look at, statistically, how many complaints is the ACC receiving? Our ACC may appear to be receiving many more complaints, meaning Charles County has a bigger problem, perhaps, with police misconduct. Maybe you would infer that, than another agency in another county, but that's because of how these traffic accidents are being handled. Those counties maybe aren't sending them, and so their numbers are less. So I think it does skew because everyone is not counting the same thing. So we do believe that there needs to be, or I should say the Police Accountability Board, who oversees this process, they do believe that there should be a statutory fix that explains what the threshold is. And it really goes back to that definition of police misconduct in the statute. So that's one issue. The other issue that we think is of grave importance is at the trial board level. So once your ACC receives that investigative file, they make a determination to charge or not charge. And let's say that there is an administrative charge. So they've determined the officer did commit police misconduct. At that time, the officer can either accept the discipline. Well, first of all, the law enforcement agency has to offer the discipline that the ACC decided, or they can do higher discipline, but they can't go lower. So the officer can accept that discipline, or the officer can reject it and request a trial board, which is basically an appeal board, and that's a 3-member panel. What happens at the trial board level, what we found, because I think we're one of very few counties, if not the only one, that has actually conducted and concluded multiple trial boards. What we found is that once you get to the trial board level, it basically is looking at this brand new, and the law enforcement agency has the ability to negotiate with the officer directly and decide to stipulate to facts, to stipulate to discipline, or in the case where the agency feels there was no police misconduct, the ACC thought that there was, the agency feels that there was not. Once that officer makes the request for a trial board, the agency has the ability to just choose not to put on a case before the trial board, which leaves the trial board no choice but to dismiss the charges, because the burden has not been proven, and it is the agency's burden to prove that misconduct occurred. So the way that the law is written, it allows for this trial board process to be essentially a fresh start, and the ACC, their determination really does not have any bearing in that process, essentially, because the agency is the one who has the preponderance, has to prove it by preponderance of the evidence. So we think that there should be an amendment to the law to give the ACC a role in the trial board. So rather than the agency being responsible for that process, for putting on evidence and for proving that there was misconduct, it should be the ACC that has representation there to prove it. Because otherwise you're in a situation where you're right back to how it was before the police reform, where the agency and the officer is really the only players in that process. Lastly, I'll say, and I'm sorry to just be spewing out stuff, but the other thing I would just say is that when the offer of discipline is made, which it has to be, the law says the administrative charging committee's recommendation will be offered to the officer, and the chief of the agency can go higher than that but can't go lower. What we're finding is that our sheriff's office is also including their recommendation as a part of that offer of discipline. So if they decided, yes, there was misconduct, but maybe it's a lower level, they're going to include that information with the offer from the ACC. And it's their opinion that the officers have the right to know the position of the agency. What that also does, if I'm the officer and the ACC has decided something higher, meaning something that's, there has been misconduct and it's at a higher level of discipline, and I know that my agency either found no misconduct or is looking at a lower level of discipline, well, of course, I'm going to ask for a trial board, because at that point, I'm negotiating with the agency and I can get lesser discipline or maybe no charges at all. So by making the officer aware of the position of the agency, we feel that it undermines the work of the ACC. But that is technically not a violation right now of the law. So there's lots of I think this really requires, and we can certainly send, if we haven't yet, we'll send those recommendations and that annual report to the full delegation. But there's just a number of little things like that and we wouldn't know these things until we've gotten to this place where we're living with it and figuring out how this really plays out, in practical terms.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I believe that there are probably, most likely, this problem in other jurisdictions too. We're probably going to have to call some type of conference over the interim and get out all the boards together and talk about all the things we need to do to fix it. Yeah, I mean, and often, if not all the time, there are loopholes in legislation that people will find a way to get in and or get through. So thank you so much. Please send it to the delegation. We will work on getting together as many of the ACCs as we can so that we can talk about it. I don't know who should spearhead it, probably judiciaries, because that's where it came from, but we'll talk about it.
Okay, and just FYI, the conference that we attended, that was put on by the it's called PERF. I can't think of what it stands for right now. It's a think tank out of DC that's been hired by the governor's office on criminal justice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not getting the names right here,
Not
and it's
a-
not in front of me. But anyway, that may be a good starting place because they're already trying to work to kind of be collaborative and get everyone together in the same room. So maybe there's an opportunity there.
Great. Will you send me that? Will you
Yes.
send me the information on the conference? Because,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Thank you so much for presenting. I
Okay.
guess we'll have to have you in 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. I thought I was going to be in an interview, but I'm here.
Okay. Sounds good. I know we have a lot of homeowners association concerns in Charles County, and I just want to publicly thank Marvin Holmes for coming down and Commissioner President coming down over the interim, and Commissioner President Collins for sponsoring a discussion on homeowners association issues that we're having in the county. And it did result in a bill coming out, a local bill coming out, and it looks like it's gonna go through. And Danielle, I want to call your attention to HB 1457. I know a long time ago that we wanted to create a database of homeowners associations. And HB 1457 is moving, and I think it's a statewide bill. And I think it's going to offer some solutions for Charles County. So we're going to keep chipping away at it until we get some real results. And I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that conference, that thing again, Commissioner Collins, if you'd like to do it. I'd like to have Marvin down again, a Delegate Holmes down again to talk about the next steps for Charles County. And
I think
I think it's a tradition to touch base with the county. So perhaps we can have Commissioner Collins every year about this time so that we can just touch base. And if you have legislation, we need to talk a little earlier. If there's more legislation or stuff you want to follow, I guess we should be talking with GS Proctor earlier so we can take a look at it. I want to give a shout out to my new intern, Delapo. She's here and she's a student. And I think she lives in Bowie. But yes, I just want to give a shout out to her, and she's doing really well. I mentioned that we want to make this a tradition. Is there anything else that we need to talk about? I will follow up regarding breweries, Commissioner President. I'll follow up with that. Anything else for the Delegate Patterson? You know you have something.
You know me well, right? Just the alert that there are so many transportation challenges, and I don't know if the counties or if Charles County is keeping apprised of them as it relates to commuter buses and the impact it may have on Van Gogh, because we know in the rural communities rely particularly on Van Gogh and also with the commuter buses. So please be, maybe you are, I'm not sure if you are alerted to that, but confer with Southern Maryland Tri-County Community Action. George Clark has been working with us because these are real concerns as relates to reductions in funding, resources for transportation.
Yes, Commissioner Collins, we really expect there to be a significant impact on Charles County. So I don't know whether you want to have George on or I'm sorry, my phone is doing this thing. Whether you want to have George on to talk about it, but we expect that there are going to be significant challenges.
Well, was that
Can you
on your
hear,
radar and at the county level?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear it all?
Mhm.
Yes, it is on the road and where that bridge is. So, you know, we're gonna see, you know, what happened. It's kind
Oh,
of,
Danielle,
that
are you able to let him know that he's breaking up?
Yes, ma'am. I'll send a text. I think Commissioner Collins, if you can hear us, maybe try turning off your video. See if you can come through clear that way.
Great.
Go ahead, Commissioner Collins.
Yeah,
No, it's still not good.
hear me?
No.
It's
I
okay.
will.
I think my message is for all the commissioners, Charles, Calvin, and St. Mary's, to be on the alert, aware that the transportation cuts are imminent. And if there are any backup plans, or maybe, I don't know if the commissioners meet as a body or maybe Mako, I'm not sure. But these are real concerns. And I know that, well, I'll put it this way, Delegate Davis, some areas that got the notice earlier, put in this, the saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and you see that in the results. And so we've sent letters, I believe you, I don't know if the county sent letters to the governor or to the Department of Transportation, but we certainly have done that through Tri-County, through the Southern Maryland delegation, and I believe also through Charles County delegation. Correct, Delegate Davis? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else we need to know about? Anything from GS Proctor we need to know about?
No, I think at this time we've covered all the bases. Thank you.
All right.
Is there a dinner? Uh-oh.
It's a Sherry question.
There will be, good morning. Yes, there will be a dinner on next Wednesday, March the 20th. It's a Southern Maryland dinner along with the Frederick County delegation, but we got notice from that we have to invite the entire Western delegation. So there will be a Southern Maryland Western County delegation dinner next next Wednesday on the 20th. So we hope we see you there. I know there's another event that night earlier, but so hopefully you will come by after that event.
And it's just for electeds, right? Because my staff was to come.
We welcome your staff as well.
Whoop.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's also it's the evening of the Speaker Society.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Is it just you and I, Delegate Patterson?
Well, that's all that's important. I'm just saying.
Oh, and Sharon.
Good morning.
Anything else for the good of the order? Something else comes to mind though, and I wanted to tell Commissioner Collins about it. Delegate Patterson, do you remember when we got that notice from Department of Environment about the effluent? Remember that? The effluent going into the river in Charles? And we asked for a hearing and we haven't gotten anything yet.
Well, also you're talking about the sludge disposal next to the Elks Lodge down in not Houston, down in Newburgh. It was we got an environmental notice, and it was during the pandemic. I called and advised them that this was not something that the community wanted to have in their backyard because, again, of the experience that was witnessed in Malcolm.
Right.
And he advised that it would go before the county to have a hearing. And it was the Bowling, I think his name is George Bowling. And that was concerned. There are petitions that are on hold from the about 100 people have signed it from Newburgh, indicating that they do not want this sewage deposited in their community.
I mean, is there any way you can send the, I guess, the letter or whatever? Because I can certainly ask for some type of status from staff on that. Because I just don't recall anything like that.
It was signed off. I will find it.
Delegate Passion, is it the same one that our delegation requested a status on? Is that the same one? I believe it might be a different one.
It might, this might be a different one, but I know that
And you guys know I'm new on environment and transportation. And so when I got the letter this time, I knew what the heck it meant. And I knew that it meant that it was, I can't think of the term of art, but that it impacted, what's the word, Delegate Patterson, that it impacted a community, a disenfranchised community. And so that kind of drew my ire. So we will send you a copy of the letters.
It's an environmental justice issue because they always want to deposit sewage and other environmentally impactful substances in communities, and they do it. Oh, here we go. Okay. It is. We can send this to you. It was the, as I said before, it's the Maryland Department of the Environment and sewage agricultural land application that was offered by Charles E. Bowling, and it's off of Rock Creek Road. I can give you the information because this was done, it's called SYNAGRO, Synagro.
Okay, we'll get it out. You guys, they're calling me to committee. So if there's nothing else, I'd like to hear a motion to adjourn so we can move on.
So move.
Okay, is there a second? Second it, Edith. I second it. All right, you guys, thanks so much for the great conversation. We will have another meeting our last meeting on the 29th of March, and then we're out of here. So it's exciting. Commissioner Collins, if there's something else you want to talk about, let us know, okay?
Thank you.
All right, take care, you guys.